The whole secret of my business as a photographer is structuring a situation. Once it's structured, any guy with a camera can take a picture. This picture here, for example, you know, this is Garland and Rooney. This was taken the first day that Judy Garland was going to do it was the first of her series on a television network. It's the other big television network. And they were all ready for taping. It was all set. And the director called 3, 2, 1, and the main camera came down the runway, and that big cable charged right out of the wall. It was cabled up. Garland panicked. The director called the lights on, and everybody really fell apart. Mickey Rooney, you know, the audience had to wait for at least 40 minutes to change that cable. Mickey Rooney took a headset and put it on his head. And he wet his hair and put his hair up like a Martian. And Rooney took that audience in the palm of his hand and soothed them, but at the same time worked with Garland.
Oh, yeah.
She started laughing. I probably shot within 40 minutes at least 20 rolls of film. Great pictures of Garland. They didn't want a picture of Garland. They said, Wiener, try to get Garland and Rooney like they were.
And you certainly did.
Well, just before they were going to go back, you know, I went to Judy Garland, I said, now I need a picture of both of you. She says, no, no, not now, not now. I said, now. And Rooney said, now. He's been here all day, he earned it. And I put him there, and I got two prerequisites in the photograph. Don't smile, don't look at my camera. And as you can tell, Rooney is almost parroting me. He's always making fun of me. She was really lost, but it worked.
I'm George Fenneman. Our show is Talk About Pictures, and our guest is Leigh Wiener, a foremost photographer in America.
Always been very decent. This picture, he was doing a series for another network, the minor of the 3 networks, and he would permit no pictures because he had, you know, photographers generally crucified Sinatra. The network needed pictures for the show. I suggested, look, it was being done at the El Capitan Theater. I said, why don't you let me go up to the last row in the balcony? I'll use long lenses. This is before 35 millimeter really was accepted. This was late 50s, I believe. Sinatra agreed to that if he could see the contacts before any prints were made. So I made a set of proofs, and I made some prints like this. And the network people took him to Sinatra, and he said, I want to meet the photographer. And I went down and see him, and he said, look, if you can do that good from way up there, what the hell can you do down here? I said, why don't you try me? He said, fine, stay on the set. He said, I'll be out in a few minutes. And I left his dressing room, and I went on the stage, and that voice, that television, that box comes over, and it was a director. He said, will the man with the cameras around his neck please leave the set? And it's awful talking to a box, George. You know,
listen, I know.
You can't look him in the eye one-to-one. And I said, no, sir. I said, Mr. Sinatra said I could stay here. He said, Mr. Sinatra's not running this show. You off the set. I said, okay, and I started to walk off the set, and as I'm leaving, Sinatra comes out of the dressing room. He said, where are you going? I said, the voice told me to leave. He said, fine, let's go. And we headed for the stage door. And the voice says, Frank, where are you going? He says, if my friend can't stay, why do you need me?
Tell us about this picture, Leigh.
I try to do my homework when I take photographs of people. The more you know about people, the better off you are. You know, none of us, not you, not David, not myself, have ever seen ourselves. So I am a photographer of people, at least that's what I've been accused of doing. And that makes the job very difficult, because we all carry 2 images with us. One, the mental image, and one, the physical image, which I look at. Durante is a very interesting man. I try very hard to get people as they are.
Well, I think you have succeeded there, and I do think you've succeeded here with Igor Stravinsky. Tell me, does he know, did he know that you took this picture of him?
When I saw Stravinsky doing that, it was a private area. He was recording a piece of his music. David Kraft was conducting, and Stravinsky was listening. I took that picture. And when there was a break, I went up to Stravinsky and I said, Mr. Stravinsky, I photographed you drinking out of the bottle directly. And he put his hand on my shoulder and he says, good, good. He says, will it come out? I said, I think so, if I'm lucky. He said, show it to the world. This is the secret of my longevity. If Stravinsky had said, please don't show it, I would not have shown it. But I don't think taking photographs of people gives me a right to walk over people. I was assigned to photograph Simone Signoret when she was nominated for the room at the top for the Academy Award, and the event was held at Pantages Theater. Photographers were banned. I bribed my way into a light stand with a guy. I gave him 3 bottles of scotch. He let me share a light booth with him. And I used a 250 millimeter lens, a 35 millimeter camera, And you know, when you take pictures with a reflex camera, which this was, you never see the instant, because the instant you expose it, the mirror flips up and the image goes on the film. After the event, a courier picked up the undeveloped film and took it back to New York for life. What I tried to get on this kind of photograph is the anticipation. If she had won the award, her expression then would have been like everyone else's. People react very differently in anticipation. Almost all people react the same way in moments of triumph. That's easy. Watch how they react in preparation for triumph or loss. That's what I wanted from her. So I shot just before he said, and the winner is. At the word is, I exposed it. This picture ran full page in Life. 3 weeks after it ran, I got a letter from New York, from Life magazine. Inside was another letter. Inside, it was from Simone Signoret in Paris. She wrote, "Dear Mr. Wiener, thank you for memorializing one of the most important moments of my life." Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. She wound up the letter by saying, "In conclusion, Mr. Wiener, I think your photograph just goes to prove the old adage that in moments of crisis, we reach those things we treasure the most."
Did she win?
She won.
She won.
Yes. Photographing people is unquestionably the most difficult form of still photography there is. It's the only area of still photography where the photographer must be a very keen student of psychology. Yeah. My job is to diffuse their fear.
Yeah, diffuse.
You know, there's a man, Marlon Brando. Bad reputation, especially when starting out. Real SOB. And I try very, very hard to understand the fears and the insecurities that others have. We all have them. I have them. You have them.
Yeah, sure.
And to record their images. You see, a portrait is not a duplication of a face. A portrait, as Leigh Wiener understands it, is the revelation of a person. You want to tell something about the person. And going back to Brando, Brando had a very bad reputation. I will always treat people equal until they give me reason to think otherwise. One day at a big, I was working for the Los Angeles Times, and Brando was there. It was a big social event, and at the Coconut Grove at the Ambassador Hotel. And Brando was there with a date, a very attractive woman. And there were literally 50 photographers in the corner, you know, frightened to go up to Brando. And I figured to myself, what the hell? What is he going to say to me?
Yeah.
Throw a glass of water at me? And I walk over to him. I said, "Mr. Brando, my name is Leigh Wiener. I'm the Los Angeles Times. I'd like a picture of you and your attractive date." "Fine," he says, "what do you want?" I reached over and I took a water glass. I said, "Why don't you toast each other? These obviously water glasses." "Good idea," he says. Mary, whatever her name was, he said, "Take a glass." I got a wonderful picture. I had a speed graphic. I took 2 pictures very quickly. Like the heavens opened up, the leeches, these other photographers, swarmed down at the table. Brando says, "Get the hell out of here. That's this man's picture. You dummies, get back to where you were."
Oh, no.
How can you not like a guy like that?
I know.
We love to live by myths. That does not mean anything. The camera likes so-and-so. Before I get into that, the most obvious myth of all regarding my profession, photography, is the decisive moment. There is no such thing as a decisive moment. It doesn't exist. A moment is like an hour, a second, a year, a month, a day. One follows the other. Let me tell you something. I'll prove it to you. You're on a corner of 34th Street and 5th Avenue in New York. A man is on the 92nd floor of the Empire State Building threatening to jump. You've got a camera with no motor. You got to take a picture. That man jumps. What's the decisive moment? When he pushes off? Halfway down? When he hits? When he bounces? That man's tragedy has permitted you a minimum of 67,000 times to take a great picture. The camera can only record. That's all it can do. Photographers are decisive, not moments. The decisive moment is a brilliant phrase. Do you know where it came from? Dick Simon of Simon & Schuster.
Really?
He was doing a book on a photographer, a wonderful street photographer, Cartier-Bresson. But isn't it a great title, A Decisive Moment?
Yeah, you got something.
Really, it's a
Maybe it's a book.
It
Maybe
means
it's a book.
nothing. It's a book title. And people ask me, say, how do I capture the decisive moment? I said, go out and get a butterfly net. Well, it's like the camera is nice to Marilyn Monroe. The camera is not nice to Marlon Brando. Baloney. The man or woman using that camera is nice to Marilyn Monroe. I mean, if you find a photographer, a director who knows anything about lenses and lighting, then it's not the camera's job to be nice or unnice to someone. Not nice to someone.
It doesn't think, does it? No.
Of course it doesn't.
No.
The only thing a camera can do, a dollar box camera, a $500 German camera, an expensive motion picture camera, all it can do is record. What it records is a function of us.